Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to another edition of Fans of the Boys, diving into a very head-poppin' 7th episode, Butcher, Baker, Candlestick Maker. And of course, we've got a full quadrant of the boys with us today. As always, we've got right over here, Mr. Rob Stone.
What is up, everybody? This is an episode that I've got a lot to say about this one, so I don't want to take up any more time and just say it's really great to be here. Hopefully, you guys. I'm happy that I'm here by the time it's over, though.
Excellent. That is a nice tease for what's coming up ahead. Okay, and coming around the circle, we've got right below him, Mr. Don Willie.
What's going on, everybody? So glad to be here to discuss this mind-blowing episode of The Boys.
How many puns can we fit in? Next one on the list, of course, there is our special guest tonight, returning from just a couple weeks ago, straight from Enchantment of Eternity. It's Marc!
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Good to be back here. Great to talk about this show. And you said the mind-blowing before I could, but that's all good. Easy, low-hanging fruit. Anyway, great to be here talking about this episode, which, yeah.
Good. Excellent. So, let's kind of just jump right into things. Obviously, we've got some strong feelings going on, and haven't really had a chance to talk with him to hear what those are. So let's get it all fresh. Let's start out with you, Rob. What's your big feel for this episode here? Start us off in a fun little direction for the night.
Fun, maybe. An
exciting conversation.
Okay, we can all agree that I think that this show is incredibly well cast. It's incredibly well acted. It's a very, very well produced show. The budget for these episodes must be huge. They don't squander anything. But this script was fucking stupid. I could not stand the directions that they were making the majority of the time in this episode. And while I understand that they're leading it somewhere for the big finale, where I found a lot of those choices and character moments and character beats to be false, to be forced. And I do not, even though I understand where they're going, I do not like to be forced down a path just to make something happen. And while I still think everybody in the episode was doing their best and acted really well, and I think the finale is going to be amazing, but I was just really frustrated at this very obvious. Every plan in this, every aspect of this script to me was an obvious thing, and I sound mad about it, but it's just I'm passionate about it because it just. The person who made the most sense was the guy that everybody was pushing back against, and that was Billy Butcher. Butcher was the only one on point in this episode that was making the decisions that needed to happen. Not maybe this will work, maybe that'll work, and you could just tell right from the get-go that nothing was going to work.
Okay,
none of it was going to work. And character moments like the kid and things like that, and we can get into more greater detail. This episode to me just stank on a script level.
Okay. All right. Well, obviously this is all about the discussions, and I think where a few of your points are. I know that we're obviously going to dive into a little bit more. Let's come down here in the opposite corner there. Don, what was your impression from this episode? Are you in line with Rob, or you see things a little differently?
Someone hasn't been drinking their Fresca.
I ran out.
I didn't find the script to be atrocious. I mean, look, were there contrivances? Yes, and I think even some of the best. Look, you know who always throws some sort of plot convenience into the story, into their work that sometimes sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's just kind of like, all right, I'll give you that because I know that everything else around it is going to be fantastic. Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan is classic for, I need this thing to happen, so I'm going to have this person say or do this thing that is totally out of left field. And hey, I don't even think that this particular episode rose to that level, but I do admit that, there were a few things that it was just kind of like, all right, I'll have to overlook that, but we'll see how it all wraps up a little later. So, I personally liked the episode, but if you have problems with it, I understand.
There we go. There we go. A nice other side of there. All right. Well, let's wrap things up with Marc. Marc, I know you've got a few thoughts right there. Give us your little insights on the episode.
Well, I want to enjoy a little snack first. Make sure I don't have a tree nut allergy. Pretty sure.
Oh God, that was awesome.
But anyway, I actually really like this episode. I'm curious to hear what Rob some of his plot contrivances are because I didn't notice anything too bad. There was one plot contrivance that really bothered me, but a lot of the rest of the story I actually like because it was so good. It kind of overruled it. In fact, like the Billy Butcher stuff was my least favorite, and it's not that there was anything wrong about it. It's just I'm not interested in his backstory. I'm not really interested. Like when they brought up his brother earlier in the season, I'm like, I didn't care. And when they had his asshole father, it didn't really interest me. I mean, and so it's not bad, and it does help develop the character, but I was more interested in everything else that was going on around. I think the stuff with Homelander and Stormfront kind of stealing the sun away was pretty bold stuff. And I think the ending it was pretty powerful. I really liked it. So I'm really pumped for the finale. So, but yeah, I'm not like sold on this episode. So I'm actually curious to hear what some of the issues with it were.
Yeah, no. I'd actually be curious to jump into that myself because I actually didn't see the episode first off. It's been sort of a crazy week for me, so it wasn't until Saturday where I'd actually had a chance to sit down and watch the episode. So just enough to have some of the social media talking about the shocking ending and who is behind and what. Again, I totally try to avoid spoilers whenever I haven't watched an episode, but of course it always inspires me to watch it as quickly as possible. But the one thing that it did, it kind of, I don't know if that gave me an expectation of what was going to happen, like, oh my God, something big, or just the fact that our discussion last week happened to have come to the fact that often the episode before the finale can be a very big episode, and then they'll use the finale to kind of set up the next season. So I enjoyed the episode. I guess maybe part of that was expecting that it was going to be bigger, and it did see in some ways a little more procedural of getting things into position in one point. I did like some of the arc with Billy, certainly showing him to be just how cruel and scary and just terrifying Billy Butcher can be, all while sipping a nice cup of tea, which was awesome. On the other hand, you're right. The backstory with his father, I didn't necessarily care about. Look, it's always great seeing Walter from Fringe. That's always where I see him. Look, his parents are Walter from Fringe and the cook from Downton Abbey. I can't even remember his name, Mrs. Padmere. I don't know. I'm sure there's some people that get to me on that. So, I mean, while it's great to see great actors doing something, it didn't. The only real point to that story was to kind of show a lot of parallels between Billy and Homelander. Is we're seeing how, Homelander was raised cruelly. What did Vogelbaum say during the discussion with Mallory is that, he was a sweet kid and then I had to lay into him or I had to change things up. Didn't say that he was violent with him, but certainly implied the point So, to me, in some ways, it shows how both Billy and Homelander are variations on the same theme in many ways. Sort of got that already. Did they need to spend the extra time and kind of nail it on the head like that? I'm not entirely sure. But like I said, there were the other things to me was more interesting. I did like the Homelander stuff. I did like seeing, again, Billy with Vogelbaum and just sort of how dark he can get when he wants to get something done. And then, of course, the hearing, which, again, while shocking, was in almost no way really surprising that something like that wasn't going to happen. And I think maybe that's part of the issue too, is like, where are we going? Because nothing was done in this episode. And maybe that was part of your frustration, Rob. Because while I think there was well done, there wasn't anything that really happened that was too surprising for, anyway, that's sort of how I saw stuff. All right. I want to say hi to the chat, to Big E, WV Grown with Vern Grown. I'm sorry, I'm horrible at trying to figure out some of these pronunciations. And Alicia Darling, which is always nice and easy going. Thank you so much for joining us here in the chat. All right, well, let's jump into kind of Lamplighter, because Lamplighter kicks off this episode and then says goodbye. And to me, what was a very unexpected, surprising place. Did you have something you want to stay on there, John?
The prologue.
Oh, yes.
We have to get into the prologue.
Very sorry. That is an important thing. And no, it was not down on that little bit, because that's what I wanted to start off. Well, why don't you lead us off there, Don? Because that was, I think, very beautifully and poignantly done for the times of where this world could go. Lead us off there, Don.
You know, what I found interesting about that, because we don't know exactly how long ago they actually filmed this season. I would imagine it was either sometime mid to late last year or very early this year before we had pandemic hit, right? But yet, somehow, in 2020, it is more perfect than it could ever be, probably for any other year. You have the talking points from Stormfront. You have the person who is listening to not only Stormfront, but, obviously some right-wing radio kind of conspiracy nut. And then it all culminates into this person who goes down the rabbit hole, and they're obviously trying to make a parallel to like these kind of, what they call them, incels, who have, they put in their manifestos that are, I've been listening to whatever figure, and they convinced me that I had to go out and do this crusade in order to save humanity, right? So here you have someone who's been frequenting the same store over and over again, right? He's seen the person who's behind the counter, who they seem to have a rapport. And then one day he hears, after all of the time of hearing the thing about, illegal immigrant supervillains crossing the border, this person that he's seen for months, that, think about it. Stormfront never mentioned race one time. She never, ever said, hey, we have to, take it back for white people, or we have to stop, people from whatever region of the country.
Right.
But he still got that in his head somehow.
Oh, it's still implied. This is about
Right.
the culture. It's here. They're coming after us. The
Right.
fear mongering.
And so
I think the term is dog.
right, and so the fact that even though she didn't explicitly or specifically say the words, brown people or yellow people or black people or whatever, he still picked up on that subconsciously. And the moment he saw uh, something that could be interpreted in the way that his mind was latching onto, automatically, boom, there you go, right? And so he's, taking this and he's like, all right, well, hey, I have someone who's made a call to action, and I don't want to be the next person killed by one of these foreign super terrorists. So yes, I have to do something about it. And since we already know that all superheroes or anyone who has compound V in this system is bulletproof, I'm going to take the chance that that I'm stopping a super terrorist. But it was kind of backwards thinking there, because if you're so sure that this person is a bulletproof super terrorist, why are you going to try to shoot them in the face? It's just going to piss them off.
Well, it's true. Again, not necessarily a smart sequence of decisions there, but I think what was done really well was showing that passage of time. Like you had said, this store he had gone into over and over, and what was it? The one time a car went back, and he thought he saw a flash in the eyes, and that's just what got him in. It was a very quick, I think, beautifully done demonstration of what these small background repeated tropes that you're hearing can really form your opinion. The people that are constantly having certain news channels or radio channels on in the background constantly just because they want to be informed, don't realize that the terms, the focus, the propaganda of that news or viewpoint seeps in slowly. And I think that was something that was, I just loved how they did the progression of that.
Yeah, something I really liked about this sequence was that it kind of really showcased that this is not a bad guy. Like he's loves his mother. He's just an ordinary guy, and he was very friendly. It's just how that thing was sort of subconsciously affecting him, and that he eventually got really into it. In fact, I recently watched a documentary that showed a similar thing where some guy shut up a pizza place because he listened to Alex Jones, and he wasn't a bad guy either. So it's kind of like that similar thing where it is just fear. Like, and that was what Homelander and Stormfront, that was their objective, is to make people afraid. And it worked too well for this guy that he was so afraid that the slight little light set him off, and he killed a good guy. In fact, this whole sequence, to me, I thought it was too realistic to me. It hit a bit too close to home. Like the thing at the hearing with heads exploding, like that's easily identified as fantasy, so that's fine. But this is like almost too disturbing for me. But I don't know. It was still really well done. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, but I think that's what gave it its impact. Again, it didn't head explode. It was the simple reality of what this would look like. It goes into the guys, he dies pretty much instantly, drops. It's not head explode. It's not all of this. It's not even necessarily a loud sound. And it was a perfect in its realistic, frightening depiction of just a dead body there. There was absolutely no glory attached to this act in any way. And I think it was just kind of astounding just how simply they did that. And you're right, very different from the head exploding visions that we get at the end of the episode.
But what I thought was also really realistic is the way that Homelander and Stormfront later just played lip service to it, thoughts and prayers. And, we care. But then they keep pushing that same exact agenda that drove them to do that. And that was also too close to home a bit.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, a very shocking opener there that I think kind of reinforces a lot of just, again, the frightening reality of what this dog whistles constantly in the background can really push just ordinary people to do frightening things. All right, so let's move on then there, like I said, on to Lamplighter stuff. And thank you, Don, for pointing out while I just skipped right over that part. So Lamplighter now is giving things up on Vought, is going to testify, which sort of, again, spurs the whole rest of it. This is why they have to go off to get Dr. Vogelbaum, because they need someone to back up his story. They need a little bit more weight to what Lamplighter is going to say. And again, let's just kind of focus on with Lamplighter and the whole Huey thing right there, because this really did not go the way I did. I mean, first off, I guess if you're going to be uncomfortable watching porn, not really a group activity in this sense. I like how they made that just the most uncomfortable thing, and yet still managed to use the symbolism of the cuck in an effective way for pushing the story forward. So I don't know. Do I got to give it up for the usage, or?
Listen, as long as you don't become the cuck fluffer. Oof.
Okay, yeah, that is the worst. That is the worst.
Oh God, Rob, you've been silent, man. We need your input on this one. Lamplighter and his porn addiction, and Huey.
Well, this part goes into, I mean, this goes into the start of what I wrote down at the top. Obvious shit, the episode.
Okay. All right. Well, then lead us down into this little rabbit hole path, because I do want to talk about some of these things.
But more than that, what I hated about this, what I didn't like about this sequence with the whole part of Lamplighter, was that last episode we finally find out about him, and he's this tragic fallen hero who he drank the Kool-Aid, and they had him over a barrel, and he made a huge mistake, and he regretted it, and he'd been trying to, he was going to redeem himself in a way. And it was really great, and it was really powerful performance. And then we just do this quick 180 where he's just suddenly just this gross porn addict sitting there making Huey watch porn. And I just felt like that was such a drastic turn of how I looked at the character from one episode to the next. Knowing that he was planning on doing what he does changes it a little bit. But I just found it to just be, I took this character seriously in the last episode, and then I didn't take him seriously at all in this episode. Everything he said seemed childish and bullying to Huey, to demean him. I felt like while Huey's, sitting there just taking it like he always does, I really didn't like how they wrote him in this. Is just, yeah, man, I'm just gonna watch porn, and until he gets to Vought, he kind of looks like he's ready to turn it, to go back to that way he was in that last episode, and then he planned all the time to go there and off himself. And did he know whether or not that was going to cause the power to go out and the sprinklers to start? I don't think he did. I don't think he intended that. He intended go there and kill himself. And it just all felt like really obvious to me that other than him lighting himself on fire, that them going there was just not going to be great. And I didn't really find that much for Huey to do. I thought Huey seeing the news, and going, oh, they've got her. I've got to immediately leave my post and do my own thing with this hero that we need to protect from himself, not just from the other soups, just to go save Starlight because I love her. And I hated that decision. I thought that was a stupid decision, and I don't care that he loves her. I just think that they wanted it. They had to get him there. And so they just made it, they made the character who makes those rash, heartfelt decisions, just make another one that I didn't agree with.
Is it because it was like the exact same thing that Frenchie did before with Lamplighter, that cost Mallory's family, is now Huey does the exact same thing, leaving his foes, which then has the person he's protecting ends up dying? Is that
basically
part of it? Yeah. I hear that. Yeah, because, and I have to agree with you. They definitely changed the sympathy level for him. I mean, I guess in one part, the fact that if this is the type of guy that if he's going to die, the last thing that he wants to do is watch porn, oddly porn with the people he used to work with, which is just a whole other level of weird. But okay, but you're right. I think that did kind of take out a lot of his I don't know, sympathy. But the whole even getting yourself killed, what you wanted to, why? Why was he going there to kill himself? How does that get one over on Vought? How does that accomplish anything?
I don't even think it was about getting one over on Vought so much as he couldn't live with the person that he had become. And so this was kind of a way of almost giving a middle finger to the whole system at that point. Because, he said that his father was proud of him when he was younger, when he burned down a damn house. When, now it's one of those things where he's starting to figure out that his life is based on a lie, right? Because he probably was fed the whole line too about, oh yeah, you were born with superpowers, and now to find out that, no, that's not true. And then you've been going through this whole sequence of events where you get blackmailed for, what basically seems like him being with underage girls. And come to find out, it's like, yeah, all of this was really for nothing, And if I'm going to get sidelined because of this, then I'm going to go out on my own terms. And that was what I think was the thought behind it. It's like, yeah, I'm going to go out on my own terms. And then when this hits the news, this is going to be a big embarrassment because, man, you had someone who was this prominent figure in the Seven until, a couple of months or a year ago, who now just committed suicide in the middle of the damn, Vought Tower. And I mean, he probably wasn't even thinking about the fact that, dude, this is Vought. They're just gonna sweep it under the rug and no one's even gonna know about this.
That's the thing. I mean, he didn't even have his statue there.
Yeah, that was the thing that, when it hit him, like, oh damn, I'm already erased from history at this point. So he had, at that point, it was like, yeah, you know what, I got nothing left. I was hoping that this would be the one redeeming thing I could do with my life, is to give my life to embarrass the shit out of Vought. And I can't even do that because they've already erased me. I'm already not even a blip on someone's radar at this point. So, you know what? Fuck it. Boom. I'm done.
Okay. All right. Marc, what do you think there?
Yeah. So this is just my personal interpretation is
Please.
that I see how like this could be seen as going in a different direction that one would expect based on the previous episode. But personally, I think this pretty much lines up with Lamplighter's character because, first of all, I don't think because he's only appeared in one episode, so they didn't establish his character that much. But what we do know about him is that he was a douchebag. He slept with underage girls. He went around to movie premieres and act like a big celebrity. And when he got blackmailed, instead of going along with it, he tried to kill the blackmailer and instead killed a couple of innocent children. And so I've actually known people in real life who would do shit like watch porn in the middle of the day. And they're sort of like, and so to me, it immediately identified him as that kind of sort of asshole type character. And I think the main reason why he was doing that was because it made Huey uncomfortable. Like that was the point.
Right.
He wanted to make Huey uncomfortable, and he saw that it was making him uncomfortable. And he was just, at this point in stage in his life, I could see how he was just a depressed and miserable fuck, and that he never cared about anyone, and he didn't really care about taking Vought down or striking back, that he was just so engrossed in self-loathing that he couldn't see beyond that, and he'd rather just kill himself instead of the statue than help people. So that part I buy. The one contrivance, though, the one main thing that bothered me about this episode is the way that Huey was like, why he decided to go with Lamplighter instead of like calling Billy Butcher, because he called him once. He said, "Oh, I can't get a hold of him. Guess I'll go with Lamplighter." When he could have like kept calling him over and over again. We saw Billy Butcher answer his phone later in the episode when Mother's Milk called him. So why give up so easily? And for me, the only answer is because the plot needed Lamplighter and Huey to go to the 7, because yes, going to the 7 tower or Vought tower with Lamplighter, just him and Lamplighter, is a terrible idea. And I think from the very beginning, Lamplighter's full intention, he had no intention of helping Starlight escape. I think I agree with Rob that the sort of light is just a happy coincidence that Starlight managed to use emergency lights to get out. Because he's a selfish asshole, and all he cared about was going out in a literal blaze of glory. And so he just used Huey to accomplish that. And so I kind of don't buy that for Huey's character, that he would, I mean, he's not that stupid. Why didn't he just keep trying to call Billy Butcher or wait? I understand that he would want to rescue Starlight as soon as possible. That part I bought, but I didn't buy that he wasn't smarter about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what though? One thing I was just thinking about. Remember, if you remember last episode, the whole bonding between Starlight and and Butcher, he wasn't awake for that. So he, was probably thinking, okay, yeah, I called Butcher, he didn't answer, and you know what? He doesn't like soups anyway, so he probably wouldn't really help me to go rescue Starlight to begin with. So it's like, all right, well, moving right along. So I mean, I think that might be the one kind of non-contrivance about the situation, is he may not know that Butcher and Starlight are currently on good terms.
See, to me, I don't think he needs to know that. I think it's a matter of, I need a mission, I'm going to have my friend help, and then he called him once. Why not call him again and again and again? I don't know. I still don't buy that.
I see what you guys are saying, but it's funny because that's not the part that bothered me with all of this. And I really thought that someone else would sort of jump onto this, but I guess it's going to be me.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Okay.
The hand.
Well, yeah. I mean, in the sense that, where is Vought security? The alarms are going off. A guy sets himself on fire, and he's got the time to figure out how to cut a guy's arm off, not just the hand. He went through like ulnar and radius, man. He got the whole like flappy part.
And the fact that it still worked.
Yeah, and nobody showed. I mean, okay, if that's where it's lighter and it's covered up by the closed hand. I mean, again, that's not bothering me. It's the fact that I don't think we saw a single guard like at all.
Nope.
I'll be honest, when I first saw that scene, I was expecting all guards to rush in, but when it didn't happen, I just chalked it up to the typical plot contrivance that most TV shows do.
Yeah.
And right, you were right, is a huge flaw, but at that stage, I was like, whatever, I'll just go with it.
Sure. And then, of course, they easily go down, hit the right floor, run into each other, and then
run into each other. Yeah, that's true.
And I guess.
I listening to this, I mean, I want to mention something Wes said in the chat. I know that part of me was watching this in the same kind of lens that he was, which was that this episode it was hard to watch because of the real stuff that was in it, the stuff that's really relevant and becoming harder and harder to deal with in the real world. I'm seeing in basically everything I watch. And so I'm watching more real, like more just awful stuff happening in front of me on a show that's supposed to entertain me. And so I'm watching it with more of a critical eye, because Mark, you brought up that whole thing with him just being, he's a douchebag, and we didn't get that much time with him to set up this kind of character, to really give that much of a crap about him. But I felt like where we left him and where we found him next was just too starkly different, and that I still feel like they were forcing it to get to Huey and him to get there so that this happens, so that A to B to blah 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 happens. And I think the show is smarter than that. And when, like what you said, D, and I love that we can I can listen to everybody and kind of develop a better or different opinion after listening to everybody. Is the hand thing bothered me too. I was thinking to myself, wouldn't that his fingertips would have been burned off? Like if he was black, how would he even be able to use it? And with Stan Edgar having the walking drone running around in the building, why isn't Stan Edgar popping heads right now? Which is, spoiler alert, who I think is popping the head. Sorry, I just kind of let that fly out of my mouth.
Okay, but no, I like that. I was going to get to that later on, but I like it.
But I just felt like there was potential though with Lamplighter to just suddenly go, okay, we're just going to make him a suicide bomber, of one, taking himself out. And it does fit his character. I really expected more from them to do this. And I guess, and another reason I'm frustrated this week is because of all the things we've been coming up with, especially last week, all the different theories. And it goes back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when we would come up with ideas. And sometimes they would come up with something better. But most of the time, our ideas, I'm sorry, we're just flat out better. And our ideas for what I thought was going to be in this episode were just better than this. And everything that happened in this, like you said earlier, felt procedural. It felt like a failure episode. Like everybody's got to fail basically, and on a huge level. And characters that would normally make smart decisions don't, or smarter decisions than they should, so that we can have this big finale. And I don't like that. I don't, and that's and so once they started making those mistakes, in my opinion, that's when I started making this list. I'm like, this is too, all these things is leading to, yes, it's going to be an amazing finale, but we could have gotten there smarter.
All right. Well, I mean, it says something when a show has a quality that we tend to expect so much more. By the way, if anyone from Amazon or ABC is watching, you can reach out to us at Darren Jakes on Twitter. Thank you very much. Your last thought there, Mark? Oh, we can't hear you.
Okay. I thought I unmuted myself, but I muted myself. But anyway, one last thing, and if I'm not jumping ahead, I wanted to really quick jump about Queen Maeve and her turn, because, and this is a really interesting thing that Rob mentioned about how Edgar's is watching through his cam. So I thought that he would be watching through Black Noir's cam and could see Queen Maeve was the one that, but at the end of the episode, she's at the trial. So obviously she's not outed as being the one. And so does that mean Black Noir's dead? Because if he's not dead, then don't they know that she's the one who attacked him? And so I was unhappy that they left that unclear. And I think I kind of understand her turn. I think maybe they could have done a little bit more to show why specifically she would save Starlight. Specifically, right. I know why she wouldn't be happy with Homelander. She's not happy with Vought. But why specifically save Starlight? I mean, I speculate it has something to do with her seeing Starlight as a younger version of herself and wanting to keep her pure and not be as corrupt as she's become. But I think the show itself needed to earn that a bit more if that was the case.
Yeah, because we really haven't gotten too many interactions with Starlight and Queen Maeve, especially in this season, where that would have been something that they could have set up where, she sees the conflict between Stormfront and Starlight, and she's like, "Hey, yeah, no, don't worry, I got your back." She's kind of a dick anyway, starting to remind me of Homelander, yada yada yada. So at least it would, when she comes to a rescue, it wouldn't have been kind of like, well, where the hell did this come from? And also, how does she know that he has a tree nut allergy? Like,
I don't. Is that how tree nut allergies work? You instantly like collapse, like the moment it enters your mouth.
Well, see, the candy coating usually helps it go down easier. So, let's see. Yeah,
I just wanted to address WV Grown in the chat. She came at him from behind, which is true. But I do believe when he was down on the ground trying to get his pills or EpiPen or whatever that was, that she kicked it away. And I think she would have been clearly visible, at least from a video camera, if not from his own eyes. Personally.
Right. And
maybe I'm
if you
wrong.
pick a
Plus, he's like a
person,
ninja.
a strong person, obviously a soup, knows that you have nut allergies. I think it would probably narrow that field down to just a little bit. Also in the chat, we did clear that up. I believe that's West Virginia grown. The WV grown is lying there too. Also want to say hi to Wes Sager. Always awesome to see you in the chat there, Wes. Mercenary X84 back with us. Biggie and everyone still hanging out, getting some nice discussion actually here in the chat. So since we have a little change of subject here, I'm going to go ahead and reach out, let everyone know, hey, if you are enjoying what you're seeing, please be sure to like and subscribe. We've got much more things coming up tomorrow night. In fact, Rob and I is going to be talking about season 10 of The Walking Dead. You can catch my review. I just put that up last night, but we're going to talk the whole season plus the review and maybe do a little speculating discussion of what we're going to be doing, seeing in these additional 6 episodes. So that is live tomorrow night, Wednesday, same time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central. And then, of course, moving ahead, we do have The Fandalorians coming for you at the end of the month when The Mandalorian returns for season 2 on a Disney Plus. And then starting next month, we're going to begin our monthly look backs at season by season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., kicking things off in November with season 1 with myself, Rob, Don, and Corey Shoemaker, who will be joining us as our 4th. So stick around. Lots of cool things to see. All right. Let's see. We're about 40 minutes. There's a couple of big things that I definitely want to touch on, and I know there's some smaller stuff as well that we still need to hit. So let's start with Homelander, and then I want to hit the hearing, and then let's see where we get to go from there. Because one of the other big moves that going on in this episode was, of course, Homelander introducing his son to his new girlfriend, Stormfront, and how that instantly undercuts any power that Becca was able to wield over Homelander, and unfortunately leads to a very serious loss on her point. So, Mark, why don't you start us off? What's your thoughts here on Homelander, the introduction of his son and Stormfront together, and what you think Becca's going to do now?
Well, I kind of saw a preview that shows what she's going to do, but yeah, it's that was really interesting. I think it shows the type. I think it's like right in line. I like how it showed how Stormfront was at, they were at the rally or whatever it was, and she saw a kid and was being reminiscent, and Stormfront picked up on, Homelander picked up on that, and I was like, hey, I got a kid. And of course, and I like how this episode points out, because it's not something that was to the forefront of my mind, that I'm sorry, is his name Ryan, the kid?
Yeah.
That Ryan is a natural born soup, which is actually a big deal. And
that was a big thing, yes.
Yeah. And that's something like I knew, but I didn't actually think about, like, especially how big of a deal that would be to Stormfront. And so that I don't know. I'd like to think that they kind of planned to take him away the whole time, and that they came there and they were trying to be all friendly. Oh, look, we're all friends here. Oh, mommy, come along. And the more resistance that Becca was being, the more they were just like, well, now fuck this. And eventually they're just like, picked him up, showed him that is all a lie, and took him away. Now, I will say, I actually did buy Ryan's reaction because that's a huge deal. If you find out your whole entire world, I always think of like the Truman Show, when you find out your whole entire world was fake, like your whole life you've been lied to by the one person you thought cared about you the most. So I would buy that his initial reaction was to be like, well, get away from me. I don't want anything to do with you. But I think that anger is going to wear off. I think eventually he's going to come around and see, actually, no, these people I'm with now are like much worse. I want my old mother back. But I buy that his initial reaction would be like, get away from me. But I think eventually we're going to see that he's going to turn on Homelander. It's not going to, I mean, Homelander and Stormfront are textbook abusive parents. They're not going to be good parents to
No, they are not.
And it's not, so it's not going to work out well. So it's going to be really interesting where they go from here.
Yeah, you know, it was interesting that there was the one thing that I agreed with Homelander in that whole kind of sequence is when he's out talking with Becca, and he does talk like, you've been showing him a lie. What's going, his reaction the moment that you do this. Again, not that I think Homelander's, I agree with you, he's not going to be a good parent in any way, shape, or form. But that was one real truth. It's actually something I've talked with my daughter a lot about, kind of the realities of the world. Is I've worked very hard not to allow the fantasy expectation of the legend of America or our world to color her from the reality of it, because I know what happened to me when I kind of went out into the world and I started seeing things for a little more clearly. It was kind of a big shock, and not that I was protected or anything. But just the reality of the world is not the same as when you think it is when you're a kid. And for something as big as that was one thing I kind of appreciated from Homelander's viewpoint. And then, of course, he showed how right he was.
But on the other hand, I can understand why Becca would do that in this situation.
Oh, sure. No. Again, I mean, just from a philosophical standpoint, I was agreeing with him. Like, yeah, you can't. If you let this go longer, it's going to be an even worse reaction, which is probably why I think you're right that initial anger for Ryan is gonna pass away. Rob, what do you think about our Homelander section?
Well, I was thinking the same thing while I was watching it that Wes kind of put up here. There's a few things, but first is Stormfront. Was Stormfront getting to the kid a manipulation to Homelander to get to the kid, to make Homelander feel like it was his idea and not hers? Because again, I feel like she's, she could get her hands on a pure soup. He's born in a lab. What do Nazis like? They like purity. And to get her hands on a brand new spanking soup with, new car smell, new soup smell on him. I don't know. Feels very much in character with her. And again, I still feel like she's leading him down the primrose path, telling him everything he wants to hear. I still think her plan is along those lines, but I think he's still a little bit more. I think he thinks he's going to be more a bigger part of the plan than I think he's going to be. Mm-hmm. I think he's being used in a lot of ways. But the thing about, and I do agree that the kid would have a reaction. But what we have seen in the past is the absolute love that he has for his mother. Whenever you see them close together, that kid, lights up and has felt encouragement and just unconditional love. And everything that he has seen from his father, tossing him off a roof, trying to hit his mother, all these things that say, my dad is a piece of shit. To go flying up into the air and see his world being fake, I do expect a reaction. Just not screaming, I hate you, without asking his mother, who loves him, to another reason why I didn't like this script is they didn't let him say the things that he should have said, which was just asking why. Why would you do this? They didn't let him. They just let him go right to, just visceral, instead of, he's a thoughtful kid. He's a very thoughtful kid. He makes blindside Lego videos. Okay. He doesn't seem to me to be one of these kids that's quick to anger. And so that's the part of the reaction that I didn't buy. That because they just didn't wait. They had to get him out of there. They just had to get him off. And so if they have a longer scene of him being actually, asking his mother for an explanation instead of this emotional one, which was, I didn't know, like, it just felt really chaotic. And maybe that's how it is in real life, maybe. But I just felt like this kid he's soft. And he's afraid of his father. And now he's got a girlfriend. And, and he don't know her from Adam. And she's phony baloney as all hell. I mean, she's like, you ever bring in a stepmom or a stepdad and try to ingratiate yourself to the family? There's a reason that there's a stereotype about step parents in everything. Okay, is the kids are the first ones to spot like somebody that don't belong.
Right.
And there was just no whiff of that. She's, and maybe it's because he's isolated that he wouldn't even have that kind of reaction, maybe. But I felt like his overreaction was too much of a reaction when everything up till now is said how much he loves his mother and knows how much she loves him and how much she's protected him from his father, that I just didn't sit right with me, that quick turn, that hard. But I do think that, their full intention was they were leaving with the kid no matter what.
Oh yeah, Don, totally. Man, jump right in.
If I may. All right, so look, there are some things that I think about this. First off, unpopular opinion, I'm pretty sure. Fuck Becca Butcher, all right? She got what she deserved, all right? Yeah, she got what she deserved, that is. All right. As far as Ryan is concerned, look, as someone who dealt with the whole step parent thing, and kind of traumatic childhood situations, the why was probably asked to Homelander and Stormfront, and they already had a story for the why, which is why he didn't even ask his mom by the time they got back from their flight, because there was already a narrative put in his head. Your mom doesn't want you to be great. She doesn't want you to do this, that, and the third. She wants to, keep you from your destiny, yada, yada, yada. And that's why she has you in this whole fake world. By the time he gets back to mom, after he's seen a glimpse of what's out there, because remember, they've already been pumping his head before this with Vought land and movies and video games and all this stuff that he's sitting up there like, wait, what? Really? Oh man, I never knew anything like that existed. And then he gets shown, forget about the stuff that you didn't get introduced to. Now I'm tearing down your entire world and showing you that the person who's been keeping you from all of this stuff that you could have had in your life has also been keeping you in a fake fucking plastic world. So again, by the time he gets back, we don't know how long the sequence of events has been, but let's say it's a half hour. I can tell you from personal experience, a half hour can change your whole life. If someone is telling you the right or wrong things.
Right.
One conversation can change it all. And so, by that point, it's like, no. I don't even want to ask you the why, because you've already lied to me about my entire life. Whatever you say next is going to be another lie. Just
Right.
because you don't want me to be angry at you, so no, it's going to be another lie. Yeah, sure, we can go. It's fine. You know,
Sure, because
now,
Dad has just shown me the truth.
right. So now, mind you, yes, obviously, there's going to be there's going to be a cooling off period where he's like, okay, look, I understand my mom lied to me, but she's still my mom. Can we go back and get her? And then we're gonna wind up. Then that's when he's gonna see the real Stormfront, because at this point, Homelander actually still wants to be his dad. Homelander actually wants to do the things that he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't realize that he is being manipulated every step of the way by Stormfront at this particular point, because Stormfront, has the experience of being able to spin doctor all of this stuff, right? So it's not going to be until there's a moment alone with Stormfront and Ryan that Ryan is going to pick up on what Stormfront is really doing to Homelander, and then there may be a small window where Homelander's like, excuse me, my son just told me you said this, that, and the third, or you did this, that, and the third, and she's going to have some explaining to do. But we'll see how that all plays out. And again, like there's a lot of this that reminded me of things that happened in my childhood where I was like, oh, yeah, that rings true. That rings very true. And that's why I'm like, you know what? Becca got what she deserved out of this one. And WV Grown No, Vought did not have Becca on lockdown originally. She went to Vought and they made a deal, and that's how she got there. So yeah, she could have had a much different life if she would have exposed Homelander a long time ago, but for whatever reason, she decided, you know what, I'd rather raise my rapist kid than, expose that Homelander is the biggest piece of shit on the planet. So, yeah, have at thee.
Well, I think mostly because they would have just killed her and she would have that kid would have had no chance. I think that she made a horrible choice to make. And as a mother, she made it for her son with the best of intentions. And while it's clearly set up to that, there's, it works in Homelander's favor right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there is going to be that turn. He's going to see what's really going on, and Homelander's going to have to make a decision, or Ryan's going to have to make a decision, or whatever. But it's tough because I actually know what you're talking about too, about that kind of decision you have to make, being in a situation with family and things like that. And it isn't right. It's very hard, and nobody wins.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I mean, listen, just think about what Homelander was telling Becca. He was basically Homelander was actually trying to bring her in to a certain extent. He was actually trying to say, "Hey, look, let's come all out of this. Let's go live in the real world. I'll be an actual father. You'll still get to be his mom, but we're going to have to strip all this away. We're going to strip away this veneer of what the world is, because, you can't wait for him to become 18 years old and then decide, okay, yeah, throw him out in society now."
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can see how I totally agree with Rob that it's a no-win scenario. Like, I see what you're saying about Becca because she's definitely not innocent in this. She's definitely not a great person. She went along with Vought and their bullshit, but it was kind of, as as other people were pointing out, there was really no good way out. Like, I think someone brought up the possibility they probably would have just killed her and raised him alone without her. So yeah, I can't really see there being any winners or any really good situation. And I totally understand why Becca wouldn't be on board with going out with Homelander and raising a kid with him. I think she's very wise to see that's not a smart decision. Although the one sort of bad thing out of this I could say, the one bad decision she really made is not leaving with Billy Butcher. But then again, she could tell that Billy Butcher did not like Ryan and had no intention of raising him together. So then again, it was, kind of a rough situation all around.
But now is Butcher going to be her only hope to get her kid back? All right. Before, I know we're hitting about the hour point, and we do have a couple of questions about some speculations for what we're going to get in the finale, which I do want to touch on. But I think the easy connection in with that is the hearing. So real quick, Wes in the chat mentions the actress did an outstanding job of showing a mother's fear and devastation. Completely agree, 100%. Mercenary X84 mentions during the speech, Stormfront and Homelander really bordering on the Make America Great Again major commentary. Yeah, and I do not think that is accidental in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, let's get on to the finale, and then we can sort of move on to our ideas of where we think we're going to be ending up with the finale. We have the end and then the finale. Last thought there before we move on to that, Mark?
Oh no, we're going to talk about the hearing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the hearing, and then on to where we think we're going to go next. Now, when I said finale there, I was like the final scene. So yes, obviously we've been building up, trying to get Lamplighter, and now Butcher, in his eloquent way, manages to get Vogelbaum to come and testify. I know, it was awesome and terrifying. Which, of course, we know as an audience is not going to happen. Vought is not going to allow this to go on. And the fact they got all the way up into the hearing was kind of astounding. You're right. We got Stormfront and Homelander sitting there in the front row. And then things start getting taken out. I think we got whoever was running the hearing at first was the first to go. We lost almost new to the 7 Shockwave. Seemed to have disappeared quite there. Vogelbaum obviously can't get his testifying. And then just random people through the room. Really was wondering if Ashley was going to lose it right there. She seems to have gotten out from what I saw. Popcorn, Mercenary X84 puts. Yes, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, shocking. Well, it's right in line with The Boys. I don't know. I didn't think it necessarily, like I said, too shocking. It was kind of expected in a way. Very over the top. Yeah. Who's popping heads? We still don't know. We haven't seen. We don't know what the range of this is. Could it be someone in the room? Could it be someone out of the room? I know Rob here's already got a couple of thoughts on that. So yeah, let's get in. And Don, why don't you lead us off on this one real quick? What is your insight there on that final scene, and what is it that we're expecting to see going forward? Where do you think this is leading us?
Well, first off, we have to talk about the lead-in to this, and that is the Deep, Marc's favorite character, and also A-Train discussing the downfall of Eagle Archer, and they're just like, yeah, nah, fuck that, Alice said he's toxic, so we're not talking about him. Fuck that guy. Turn on the hearings.
The full Scientology move, yeah.
Yeah. So, we're getting the reactions of not only these two guys who want back in the 7, but they're thinking, oh, damn, it's about to be over for Vought. But then we also have the reactions of the boys who are like, yes, it's about to be over for Vought. And we have to wonder now, because I know a lot of people were speculating that it was Cindy who had exploded the CIA agents head back in episode 2, and now it's kind of like, nah, not thinking so. Obviously, Stan Edgar somehow plays into this, but one other thing that I saw someone speculate earlier today, I watched the video, and I'm starting to possibly agree with this one. Alistair, that he was involved, because think about it, right? Shockwave, Gonzo, which makes room for who? A-Train, who he wants back in the 7. So this way he'd have 2 members of the church in the 7. And hey, he did talk earlier about him having a meeting with Stan Edgar. Stan Edgar, nowhere to be found. Alistair, nowhere to be found. But obviously somebody, the people, there were a few people who it was definite, like, okay, your target, and then everyone else is collateral damage.
Right.
So Vogelbaum, target. Whoever was heading the committee, target. Shockwave, target. And I think everyone else who got hit during that whole thing, collateral damage, because this way now it doesn't look as though those people were the actual targets. It looks like, oh, this is just a soup terrorist that came in and did this mass red herring. Yeah, and now it's like, oh man, this isn't what we thought it was. Because think about it, right? Homelander's obviously not in on it, because he was looking around like, oh, holy shit, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Stormfront, it was hard to gauge her reactions, right? We didn't really get to see much of Stormfront. Yes, we saw her kind of whipping her head back and forth, but we didn't really get a close-up on her face to see any of her reactions. So it was hard to tell whether or not she was part of it, but I don't think she is.
Okay.
I think she was just as nervous as the rest. And obviously, Ashley with the, your superheroes, do something about this. Obviously, she's not part of it.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. You guys, Rob. Come on, man. Come on, buddy. Come on, guy. Come on.
Well, I've got something really to say about this.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah. Jump in there, Mark.
Don, you're stealing my thunder, because you take the exact theory that I was going to say about who I think is responsible for this hearing.
Mark with fresco.
I
Very good man.
I think that it's the what's it called? The Church of the
Collective.
Yes. I think it's just them and not Edgar's. And here's why, and you mentioned the Shockwave thing. To me, that's the biggest tell that was part of the plan, was to get rid of Shockwave to make way for A-Train. Also, I don't think it's Edgar's, because I don't think this is his style. I think he would do something a bit more low-key, out of the public eye, something like else to discredit Vogelbaum, or maybe kill him in secret or something would go missing. This public display of heads popping, I don't think is something because that draws a lot of negative attention. But someone like the Church of the Collective, I don't think they care. I think they want to keep the 7 around, so they want to discredit, they want to stop people from speaking out against them like Vogelbaum, so that makes sense. And at the same time, get rid of Shockwave to make way for A-Train. So I think it's all them. Also, Yeah, the whole Cindy, people are mentioning Cindy. I think this is clearly not Cindy because if we saw from the previous episode, Cindy, when she exploded people, she exploded their whole bodies, not just their heads. I know that's a small distinction, but I think that actually works. I think it's either a soup we haven't met yet, or maybe it's even a piece of technology. And
Mhm.
I think that the Church of Collective were planning this, and that's also why they killed the CIA agent in the first episode, but not the boys, because the Church of Collective don't care about the boys. If it was Edgar's, I think he would have taken out the boys as well. But that's just me. I could be totally wrong. Maybe it is Edgar's, but
Well, yeah, but I like the theory because it gives us a. Or somebody have their volume on? Sorry, I was getting some weird feedback in through maybe it was just mine. But I like the idea because it really shows why the collective has had such a sort of a background presence throughout this season. You know, I mean, obviously the Deep's trying to get back, and we got some nice Scientology jokes, and of course, you know, Fresca's probably loving all of this. Any advertising is good advertising. But it would be kind of a nice sort of surprising end that they have some muscle, and this is their way of sort of setting things up, and maybe in a way even making a deal with potentially Homelander and Stormfront on where they're going. Or maybe it could just be, then it will just be the Church, the Collective versus the Soup Seven, or these two powerful forces. But yeah, I gotta say, I hadn't thought about that too much. But the more you guys talk about it, the more I really like. And like I said, I think that would be a really nice twist to show things up there. Rob, what do you think? What's your spots on the blowing up heads?
Well, pretty much all of it has been said. The one thing I'm a little more is killing this. What's her name? Jennifer Esposito's character.
Mm-hmm.
Because that felt to me like more like an Edgar move than the Church of the Collective, unless they're just under unless they just do things for Vought. They were talking about exposing Vought, not what would that have to do with the Church of the Collective, unless there's been this long history of them whoever's doing it within the church. Working with Vought. So when I said Edgar earlier, I pulled back because I was trying to get along the lines of what Don was saying about Alistair, which is why what I keep bringing up, like there's something going on there, right? What if the big supervillain, another group is from there, and somebody has, like I even said, like a MODOK kind of character, somebody who is doing things. It's absolutely true that Stan Edgar is not the blowing heads up kind of guy, and it's true that they brought up the meeting that he had, and that Shockwave is kind of that linchpin death to kind of show more randomness, but also not random at all for the audience if you've been paying attention.
Sure.
I think it's purposely vague, so that we will have these kind of like speculations of which one is the bad guy. So there is an interesting reveal on that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's either way, but I think it makes more sense that it's Alistair. I still don't understand why they would kill the CIA act. I just don't see it unless Edgar comes to them like saying, I need somebody watch, because it just feels like when they killed her, remember Black Noir likes to hang out on rooftops and then check things out for Edgar. So, I mean, if he was there spying, on them, keeping tabs, and somebody was obviously keeping tabs on her, that maybe it's one of the church members that's keeping tabs on her and everybody that's around this whole thing. Maybe it's the original lady that offered them the Fresca, the person who brings everybody in, the one unassuming librarian looking lady from Breaking Bad, both, the one that just doesn't seem like she'd be anything. It's easy to look at Giancarlo Esposito powerful man controlling things. He's got some kind of mystery around him. And you got Goran Viznik, who's the leader of this cult. And obviously he could be the one doing it. But I like the idea of somebody just unassuming is the trigger man, the true believer. I feel like the Alistair is the P.T. Barnum out there selling everything and spinning things. Meanwhile, you've got the person who does all the dirty work, and brings people in and leads them places, and she could be the one doing it. There's all these different ways to look at it. But yeah, in the end, like, did anybody really think that this hearing was going to work? No. I didn't know it was going to be like that. And it did like the fact that they really made a point of showing Homelander looking very confused.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I think personally, like, a reason why the collective might have wanted to kill the CIA agent is because they want to keep the Seven around, because they want to control the Seven. And I'm actually kind of seeing more of like a conflict between the collective and Edgar's. I think the collective want to take the Seven away from them, sort of.
I think,
I could be wrong about that.
No. I think you are hitting on to exactly where I was going to go. Thank you for the nice transition there. Because, all right, this is the end. We got one episode left. We've had all of these different pieces moving. Where is it that we expect things to go? And I think if this idea that Alistair or the Church of Collective is kind of behind the whole head popping, perhaps, and Biggie here in the chat mentions, remember in episode 3 when Stormfront met the Deep, she references the Church of Collective. They used to be kind of simple, but then they started accepting everyone. So she gave sort of this sort of unpure reference. And I wonder if what we're seeing is a battle for control of the soups. That Vought may have made them originally and they're running the business, but the collective wants to run soups to organize the church. And perhaps they don't mind keeping the boys around, but they want to take out the CIA lady because they want the whole supervillain idea creates the tension that might allow that balance. If Vought shows that they can't do it responsibly, but perhaps the church can, maybe they can get the military contracts or whichever. Haley's Tusk mentions killing the speedster, tries to blame the supervillains and away from Vought. So this might kind of just show who, we don't want Vought kind of in the trouble. We want to take over their position. So I wonder if this is kind of a power play back and forth, which obviously is going to be complicated or perhaps played into with the whole, and we've got to expect a Stormfront, Homelander, Nazi family push of soups to greater grasps of power. So that's sort of what I'm expecting that we're going to end up. Like I said, I don't think we're going to solve any of those. I think that those battle lines will be where we'll end this season. And then season 3 is going to be like just all craziness. But where do you guys think it? And let's kick things off with you down there, Marc. Where, again, since you sort of laid me into this, why don't you take from there? Where do you think this season's ending up? Where do you think the battle lines are drawn?
I think you kind of hit it. I think that they are going to draw the battle lines in the finale. That they're going to make it clear. I think it's gonna be like the main plot. I think is going to be about the boys trying to do something drastic to take down the Soups, which I don't think is necessarily going to work. But I think we're going to know like who stands where at the end of the finale, and then going into season 3, it's going to set up. Because it's like Robbie, I think you mentioned the last time I was here that the finale, you tend to like set up the next season. So that's what I think this is going to do. It's going to set up this war, conflict, whatever it is that's going to go down in season 3 and make it clear where the church stands and where the Vought stands and what's the deal with the boys and the 7. At least that's what I'm expecting. I could be wrong, but I hope we get some shocking revelations too in the finale. Maybe a death, I don't know, but I think that would be really cool. So yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Don, what's your thoughts on all of that?
I mean, yeah, I definitely think that they're going to be setting up for a major conflict for season 3 because I don't think you'd be able to wrap everything up in this one episode and then kind of start a brand new story from here.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously the Church of the Collective is going to be a force to be reckoned with going forward, and I think there's going to be more. It's gonna be more of a shift where it's going to be less Vought, more Church, and the boys stuck somewhere in the middle because as of right now they have no idea about the Church of the Collective, so they haven't come up against them as far as being adversaries. At this point, their only adversary has been Vought. So bringing in the Church and then having those two kind of being in a war with these guys kind of stuck in the middle, almost playing catch up is going to be interesting to see. I'm still wondering who's not gonna make it out of the next episode. Because I think somebody from the 7 has got to go. I don't think any of the boys want to bite in the dust, but I think someone from the 7's got to go. I'm predicting either A-Train or Maeve. I'm thinking one of those two has got to bite the big one at the end of next episode, just to kind of show how big the stakes actually are going forward. Because remember, right now, Stan Edgar has halted his war on the boys. Period. Point blank. He was like, "Nah, all right, we're good. We, as long as you're not going to expose what we've done with Becca having this kid, fine. All right." But I think that somehow, there's going to be the conflict within the 7, and somehow one of them is going to wind up getting killed, and the boys are going to get blamed for it, and then the boys are somehow going to get caught in the middle of the war between the Church of the Collective and Vought.
Okay, nice.
And somehow I think, I don't know, there's a nagging feeling as though there's some storyline that still has yet to be resolved from like season 1. I might have to go back and binge this whole weekend if I have time. But I feel like either from season 1 or somewhere earlier in season 2, like for the past 20 minutes, there's been like this nagging feeling that there's something that's like been left on the table that hasn't come back yet, that I'm just like, and I can't think of exactly what it is. But
okay. I kind of like that. I mean, wouldn't surprise me if they had something else that they've been hiding in the background to bring up. Few different speculations on death, with you definitely have some agreement here. West Virginia grown. I think Stormfront's going to be killed in the finale, though Haley Tuss mentioned she thinks that Aya Cash has already been signed for season 3. She's thinking that Ryan may be the one that dies. And honestly, very practical reason: get rid of the child actor who will grow up faster than they want him to, and give Homelander a cause. That is, West Virginia thinks, I think Ryan is the one who will kill Stormfront, maybe to save Rebecca. Yeah, I don't know. I think they would keep Aya Cash around. I think this would be a lot too fast to take her out. Ryan would certainly be a motivation. Wes thinks that it's Maeve, which, I don't know, like you said, you gave those two ideas because both Maeve has been pushing up against Vought, and A-Train is seeing the kind of falseness of the church, where he wants to be used and he's excited about that, but he's obviously seeing like, oh, this is just some other game that's being played. So considering that both of those are potentially could stand in the way of their respective teams. I think that's some pretty good speculation right there. Yeah, I don't know. Maeve seems the one that's been pushing hard, and a competitor with Stormfront, and yeah, I don't know. I think that might be right. Okay, well, I think that pretty much covers everything. Obviously, next week is our big season finale. We are hoping that at least one of our ideas shows up because, again, ABC, Amazon, if you are looking for ideas and a development crew, you can reach us here at Fans of the Boys. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. I want to thank everyone that has joined us live in the chat. West Virginia Grown, Haley's Tusk, Big E, Mercenary X84. Really appreciate all of your thoughts, your insights, your questions in. It makes this all so much more interesting. Let's give any final thoughts that you guys have, and please tell people where they can find you. Let's start right down below with me, with Marc.
Hi, yeah. Again, thanks for having me here. It's always great to guest on these things. I love talking about this show. And yeah, I think someone said that Queen Maeve is almost a too easy of a pick, and I kind of see that because she's in such like dire straits. But I don't know. It could be here. I really hope that it's Starlight's mother because I really don't like her. But anyway. So my name's Marc. My channel's Enchantment of Eternity. You can check me out on YouTube. I do weekly reviews of The Boys. I also cover other shows like Star Trek Lower Decks, which is having its finale next week, and then I'm going to move on to Star Trek Discovery. Huge Star Trek fan. I have a big back catalog of all these Star Trek reviews on my channel as well, and cover other shows like The Expanse. I just did my Raised by Wolves review, just went up on my channel. That was an interesting show. So you can check out my channel for all of that.
Excellent. Let's take us right around the bend to Don. Tell people where they can find you.
Well, currently you can find me here on Tuesdays with that guy right there and that guy right there, talking about The Boys. And obviously you can find me here when we do Fandalorians, and eventually at some point you'll be able to find me, on my channel doing some Game of Thronesy stuff at some point, sometime.
Text him; he'll get something going, guys. He just needs that support. All right, and of course we've got Rob Stone. Rob, what's any final thoughts and let people know where they can find you?
Well, since I didn't weigh in on the finale predictions.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Please dive in on that.
No, it's not really a dive in. It's more like, no, it really isn't. Because I don't really know. I really don't want to predict anymore, because if somebody had told me that this week it was going to end in a Congress hearing, or the whole episode was going to be about getting to a Congress hearing, I'd have told you that was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard. And I still think it was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard, considering all our options. And so I would say this to our predictions is temper them, because honestly, I think that we're all going so big and so broad that I think simpler, like if they went as simple as a Congress, I know a lot of heads exploded, but to me it was very simple, a simple scene with a lot of really great effects. And so I think that I'm just going to allow it to happen as it happens. And I'm just going to go, okay, I either like it or I don't. But there were two things that I wanted to mention that we didn't mention, or at least one thing that we didn't mention, one thing I want to bring up. The first is the Lord of the Rings reunion between John Noble and Carl Urban.
Yeah.
John Noble was the guy from, I can think of the castle in my head.
Minas Tirith, and his name was Denethor.
Yes. And I thought that was a nice moment for those two actors to have together, him being his father. It's always great to see John Noble. He's still alive and kicking, which means I want to see more Fringe someday. And the other thing is my favorite scene in the entire episode is something that we didn't even come close to talking about, which was Kimiko teaching Frenchie her language.
Ah, yeah.
Starting to teach her language to him was, I think that's foreshadowing, a little bit of foreshadowing. I think that also has some positive character growth between the two of them coming together. Her like opening up now, trusting him. And I thought that was really great. And I do think that Billy Butcher's look on his face at the end of this episode says a lot about what we can probably expect from the boys, at least as what they're gonna do. That look on his face, and she did come to Billy at the end, like, "Oh my God, he's got our kid," or my kid. But that's all. Let's see, what can I tell you about myself right now? We are going to be doing on my channel, Smirking Gun Reviews. We got a brand new series starting called Comics You Love, which is going to be a best issues of comics of the month. We're going to be starting one solo with just me, talking about all the best issues of September. Then starting in November, we're going to have a full panel of people where all of us talk about the comics that we loved in October. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a really special thing that we do once a month on the channel. We got Agents of Shield's old Shield new reviews. They're every Wednesday. We got the newest one coming out tomorrow for the introduction of Yo-Yo's character. Lovecraft Country on Sunday. We cover that. That's a pretty big show on the channel. It's really great. You can find me on Twitch, where we're always playing on my channel, Smirking Gun Plays, and Twitter at reviews_gun. A lot happening.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, thank you everyone for joining me. And actually, Haley's Tusk, thank you for the last little reminder of the legend, rock god. We sadly lost today. Mr. Eddie Van Halen passed away with a long battle with cancer. So, that one hurts. Actually, that had me playing some old songs today. So, just kind of a bummer like that. I mean, 2020 continues to kick us all in the special parts, and this is just one more on top of it. So. I wish I had some awesome Van Halen to play us out at, but, I don't want to lose the monetization. I need that 50 cents. So, thank you guys.
Acapella it.
There we go. Thank you guys so much for joining us live and in the archives, and we will catch you all next week. Take care, and we will see ya. Bye-bye. I got to push like 15 buttons for this to end, so that's why it takes so long.